We all have fears, and I'm going to share with you some of my fears today. A long time ago, I felt and I believed that the direction of my life was in alignment with what we refer to as God. And then eventually, I destroyed my faith, and that has nothing to do with, say, religion or anything with that, but my approach to religion. And this actually has to go into what spiritual bypassing is, bypassing in general. And what I was ultimately doing was using an organization to stamp a label on me instead of seeing the bullshit and the nonsense that I was doing. I was just checking the check marks in the said religion and continued forward, believing that that was salvation. Now, what's interesting is this happens all the time. And ultimately speaking, it can happen even in modern day spirituality. Why am I talking about this? Honestly, I just want to share with you. I'm just sharing with you. I'm going to share with you a story of a person that was religious, believed wholeheartedly in their direction in life, to a person who lost their direction, to a person who became an atheist, and then to today, feeling a presence of God, understanding how to trust God. It's one of those things. I've talked to many individuals that when they feel the presence of God, it's undeniable. Sometimes we even feel and believe, when we're in a religion, an undeniable presence. And I'm not taking that away. I want to just tell you that right now. You may be on the right path. However, as time goes through, expectations will break the heart, and expectations of people not learning some of the basics in religion to truly love one another, not having judgment. These basic things I didn't take to heart. What I ultimately did was I judged individuals because my religion was judging individuals. So I believed that was the right way of living life. Jesus says to not judge. And as a Christian, and a lot of Christians that I see, I can't even identify myself as a Christian. I identify myself as a person who loves Jesus, who loves the way he teaches. But yet at the same time, Christianity itself, I believe, has betrayed his teachings. And we see a lot of hatred in this world. We see dichotomous thinking, black and white thinking. You're either part of my religion or you're against me. Jesus says to not judge individuals. That sounds like a judgment to me. Jesus says also to love ourselves and to love our neighbors. One of the things I did was I loved my neighbors. I didn't know how to love myself. If this resonates with you right now, and if you're in a religion, if you're doing spirituality, if you're healing, if you love other people, but you don't take the time to love yourself, you're bypassing something. And ultimately, it's going to get you in a world of pain because you're giving your power out to somebody else. You're basically going to be asking for an expectation, or you start to hold an expectation so high that ultimately it has to drop. And when it drops, you will confirm whatever belief you have about humans, about God, about religion, whatever it is. The only thing we can ultimately control is us. The rest of it is God's problem. In the Bible, it brings out the fact that God will have revengeance on your enemies. It is God's thing. It's not your thing. Give it space. Allow it to breathe. Allow it to move. You don't have to exact that judgment. That's what Jesus was saying. Jesus taught how to forgive individuals. And ultimately, with that same forgiveness, you learn how to forgive yourself. And what he was teaching was incredibly sound. So it comes to today. Why do I not post as much as I used to? Well, I learned the more I learn about psychology, the more I need to understand more. And I started to realize that ultimately I don't have business talking about it because I really don't know what's going on in your life. That's why I'm kind of making this video, because ultimately all I can do is share how I lived through things. All I can do is share my experiences. Now, it's true, I'm certified in positive psychology as a coach, but not as a psychologist, not as a therapist. That takes years to get to. Years of dealing with individuals, years and years of research. It's like being a motivator. It's totally different to encourage someone to do something than to actually diagnose someone. Sometimes we see a lot of influencers on YouTube diagnosing some stuff. They really don't know. They really don't. I'm not casting judgment, I'm not casting shade, but one of the things I have seen that is a danger is the word narcissism. The more I learned about narcissism, the more I realized that as individuals, we really don't know if another said individual has those traits. But yet, if I believe it at that time and I start sharing this information, which I have made a video talking about how a narcissistic individual or a group of people will take you and grab a hold of you and take you and push you away from your family. I have talked about that. But here's the thing. That's an example of something I'm understanding today. As life coaches, we're here to motivate you. And I want to be here to motivate you. Right now, I'm trying to understand how to do that. I'm trying to figure out how to create videos that you can learn what mindfulness is. Why is mindfulness so important? Mindfulness is important because it helps you to see who you truly are. It helps you to understand that it's okay to be in this skin, in your skin, to truly accept your imperfections, to learn how to communicate with yourself, creating an observer. Those are some things that ultimately I see with other religions, other people, and other relationships. And it happened with me all the time. I gave them the power, okay? So I gave them authority to dictate my spirituality, to dictate my emotions. If I offended you, then I should be the one in the wrong. I should change. And ultimately, we're not talking about serious stuff. I'm just talking about maybe offending you just because of something like this. Speaking my truth, speaking my thoughts. And the place that I came from, they did not appreciate hearing personal thoughts. And if anything, they actually will go out of their way to correct whatever I have to say. And to say, you cannot have your own personality. We do not feel comfortable with this. And then maybe even go towards the families and to start attacking my families for my own opinion. That happens in families. It happens in religion. It happens in organizations. And that's why a lot of times people refer to them like cults. Because cults don't allow freedom of will. They don't allow the idea of being individual. And one thing I've learned is God wants you to be an individual. God wants you to create in this world beauty, love, happiness, kindness. And if you're just mimicking another individual, you're not creating in this world. I believe that God wants to see us create our life different and unique. And maybe it's an example for one person for a little while, and then they get on their track and they create something beautiful in their own way. But they don't mimic you. We don't want to mimic people. We're all imperfect. We all make mistakes. And one of the things that I believe I came from, it was so on and off. It was just on and off. You had to walk a certain way. You had to talk a certain way, and you had to dress a certain way. And if you didn't, you would not be allowed to progress in the community. And so with those type of things, I started to realize that it's about control. Well, if you're in this situation where you start to see that your relationship is about control or your environment is about control, you start to push back. That's what I did. That's how I became an atheist. By pushing back, by disproving the beliefs. And it got to this point where eventually I almost could not accept anything good out of the Bible. Had nothing to do with religion, had to do with the Bible now. I tore it completely down. Then I discarded the idea of God, and I severed that connection. And it was one of the most difficult and hardest times of my life. What I relied on then was basic psychology, science. I'm not saying that those things are bad, but that's what I put my reliance on. The same way I bypassed when I was younger, I bypassed with these said things. And so I leaned into science. I leaned into depression pills. I leaned into drinking and other things that now today I realize were harming me. And with that harm, it very well could have harmed more things. And it could have harmed even people around me. And when I realized that with a sober mind, I've been sober for probably almost, I don't keep track of the days, to tell you honestly, around 2 years or 3 years, it could be. I don't keep track of the days. This is just a me thing because it is now a part of my life. It's what I do. It's me. I'm sober. I don't partake in those things that alter your mind outside of you. Because I've learned that what we're doing is actually giving this power outside of us. And we're actually saying, depression pills fix my problem, instead of actually looking at ourselves and learning how to fix it. Drinking, fix my problem. So on and so forth, fix my problem. Relationships, fix my problem. Fix me. That's how we're conditioned. We're conditioned this way for a lot of reasons. And when I started to realize it, oh, that's why I want the next phone. Oh, that's why I want to keep on spending money, because if I have this, my ego grows, okay? It just keeps on growing and growing. And as you get richer, I don't even know what that means in this concept, because today a rich life is to be truly at peace with yourself. Learning how to be in a room with nothing and be content. To be able to be here. One of my favorite singers, he committed suicide, and one of the last interviews he made, he said it wasn't safe right here. And that's where I was at those points in time. And then as I grew, I felt like I was being seen in different ways, in different relationships and so on and so forth. And then ultimately, there's always a correction, and there's a dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul, those ones all show up for all of us, and they all look different. But whatever the case is, your entire world collapses. And during this time frame, I lost friends. I lost people who I believed I would literally always be around all of my life. I lost so many things, but yet gained so many things. And it all happened when I stopped drinking. It all happened when I decided, quit doing this shit. Quit entertaining dark thoughts. It all happened with a choice. And it taught me that no matter where you are in life, everything begins with a thought. That thought will become real if you make it real. How much are you going to aggressively pursue it? Do you want to think that you're worthless? Do you want to think that you're a big ego and you're the one running a business, you're making the six figures, you're doing all this stuff? Yes, you're doing all that stuff, but yet you can't literally go home and not drink. But you need a drink to relax. You need a drink to socialize. You need a drink to have fun. And then at the same time say, I'm not an alcoholic. That's where I was. I'm not judging anyone, but the reason why I used alcohol was because I thought I needed something. I needed me. I needed to be comfortable with me. Needed to learn how to sit with me. Okay. So I learned that there is a God, and that's how I feel today. You can take on whatever you want. I respect whatever you believe. I'm sharing my experience with you. One thing I do realize ultimately, when it comes to believing something, it doesn't really matter what it is. Okay? It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is how hard do you want to believe in it? Now, religion and family members or friends that see potential in you and see that you actually can grow into a potential and go past certain things may try to control that said thing and then subdue it, throwing a wet blanket over you. You're on fire. You're doing stuff. You're moving forward. Throw the wet blanket on them. Tear them down. That happens to everyone. Okay? I want you to look at it in a loving way. There's a fear. What we ultimately fear is the thing that we will control. So when you learn how to not fear, when you learn that God ultimately is in control, what that did for me, I don't know if it will work for you, but what it did for me was it gave me freedom of not worrying about individuals, not worrying about how they would respond to me, not worrying about if I offended them or if I'm fitting into their world, but realizing that I'm just art. Art is not perfect. I'm not straight lines. I'm not mathematics. I might change my mind tomorrow. And that's one of those things I realized when I'm trying to create coaching programs. I have positive psychology on this side. I have mindfulness on this other side. How to create this perfect program. And I make it so hard because I want it to be perfect for you. I want it to be perfect for me if I were to go in the past. And that's what I'm working on right now, is I'm trying to create something that I needed. Things like, for an example, what is a Kundalini? Okay? What is a Kundalini awakening? What is breath work? How does breath work affect us? I'm also certified in breath work, by the way. What it means to be certified in breath work. There's a lot of terms that we refer to as spirituality, but ultimately it's about healing. It's about seeing us the way God sees us. It's about living in harmony with the universe, but still being unique, having a flavor, having zest, enjoying life, enjoying the energy of freedom. And that's one of those things that God gave us, I believe, is freedom of will. And that freedom of will is that gift. It's the thing that defines you as a person, and then you literally create with it. But if we have all kinds of hatred and anger, and we don't know how our mind works, and we're judging ourselves, so we're constantly beating ourselves down, we'll actually create that into the world. We may not want to. How many times it's happened to me where I'm in a bad mood and all of a sudden I get snippy, I get short with someone that I love. That used to happen to me all the time because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. Mindfulness literally taught me to identify that, oh, I'm getting triggered, I'm getting angry right now. Stop for a moment, Tom. Allow it to be. I don't bring up anything. It actually wasn't a bad situation at all. I don't make a fool out of myself. And the second thing is, I wasn't drinking. Ultimately, like when we drink, it affects the mind. It affects your personality. It affects who you are. And when you don't have the emotional maturity, you may think you're mature. You may think that you're an adult. I know this is where I was. I have all these things figured out. I'm performing. I'm doing all this stuff that makes it look like I have put together, but I don't. Because right here, I wasn't able to be safe within myself. So this is why I like mindfulness. This is why I started learning it. I want to teach that to you. How do I teach that to you? A lot of the times I look at mindfulness and I start to realize that people don't know what they're talking about. The other thing is with positive psychology, sometimes when I start going into positive psychology, I realize some people start to really open up to me like I'm their therapist. I'm actually more like their friend. I'm more like someone that can hold space for you, but ultimately I'm not trained as a therapist. I'm not trained as a psychiatrist, but I care in that moment and I'm going to listen. So it's learning how to balance certain things. And I want to just take a moment and just say thank you to the clients I do have. Thank you so much for helping me learn myself during this journey, allowing me to learn how to hold space for individuals. Thank you, and I appreciate you very much. I'm going to make more videos like this that are just kind of raw that we can communicate with. Peace and love. Talk to you later.